Welcome to another episode of the Functioning Law podcast, prepared by Dr. Yannis. I am Theo, your SQE expert and host for today.
And I'm Anna, an SQE candidate, like yourself. And this week, I've actually been thinking about life after the SQE, which feels dangerously optimistic.
A necessary exercise. The purpose of these exams, after all, is to build a career. What was on your mind?
Well, a friend and I have an idea for a small consultancy, maybe creating promotional videos and podcasts for law firms. And it got me thinking about the first practical step. When does an idea become a real business? When do you need to incorporate? It feels like a huge, complicated step.
An excellent and very common question. It touches upon a key area of the FLK, business law and practice. The process of incorporation might seem daunting, but it's more accessible than ever. Today, we'll break down the rationale, the process, and the practicalities of setting up a private limited company in England and Wales.
Perfect. Because right now, the alternative is just being Anna and friend doing some work, which sounds less like a business and more like a hobby that might accidentally get us sued.
You have landed on the primary rationale for incorporation: liability. When you operate as a sole trader or a simple partnership, there is no legal distinction between you and the business. Its debts are your debts, its liabilities are your liabilities.
So if we used a copyrighted music track in a client's podcast by mistake, and they got sued for damages, that lawsuit could come after my personal bank account, my car, my extensive and probably worthless collection of vintage law textbooks?
It could indeed. Your personal assets are on the line. Incorporation changes that. By registering a limited company, you create something the law recognizes as a separate legal personality. The company is its own person. It can own assets, enter into contracts, and crucially, it can be sued. The liability is contained within the company itself.
So the company's debts stay with the company. My vintage textbooks are safe.
Precisely. This is the principle of limited liability. Your personal risk is generally limited to the amount you have invested in the company, for example, the value of the shares you own. It is the corporate equivalent of having a very firm boundary between your work life and your personal life. Unique name. This is invaluable for branding, marketing, and securing a professional online presence, like a specific website domain.
Right. Which brings us to the first big hurdle, choosing a name. I assume you can't just call yourself the Queen's Official Law Podcasters Limited.
You assume correctly. Companies House has strict rules. The name must be unique and not the same as or too similar to one already on the register. There is a free online checker for this, which is your first port of call.
What does too similar mean in practice?
It accounts for variations in punctuation, the use of and versus an ampersand, or certain words being interchangeable like UK and Britain. The goal is to avoid public confusion. Furthermore, you must avoid sensitive or restricted words. Anything suggesting a connection to government or royalty or a specific regulated status like bank, university, or chartered requires special permission, which is rarely granted. And of course, nothing offensive.
So, I've got my brilliant, unique, and entirely inoffensive name. What's next? How do I actually do it? Do I need to find a solicitor in a pinstripe suit and pay a fortune?
Not anymore. The process is now almost entirely online and remarkably streamlined. The traditional route is directly through the Companies House website, which is part of gov.uk. You fill in a form, provide the necessary details, and pay a nominal fee. The direct online fee is currently set £50 in 2025.
What information do I need to have ready?
You will need your chosen company name, a registered office address, which must be a physical UK address, the details of the company's director or directors, and the details of the shareholder or shareholders. In a small startup, the director and shareholder are often the same person.
About that address,
I'd be working from my spare room, but I really don't want my home address plastered all over a public register for every client, competitor, or cold caller to see.
A very sensible concern, and this is where a significant modern development comes into play. You have the option of using a virtual office address. It is a real, physical address that you pay a service to use for correspondence, keeping your personal address private. And many new businesses are now discovering an even more integrated solution, the internet banks.
Internet banks? You mean like Starling or Tide or Revolut? I have a personal account with one of them.
Exactly. Many of these digital-first banks have recognized that their target customers, freelancers, consultants, small startups, need to do two things at once: register a company and open a business bank account. So they have bundled these services together.
How does that work?
Often, they will guide you through the entire incorporation process on their platform as part of their business account onboarding. They act as a formation agent. And here is the key incentive. Some of them offer to do it for free, or will cover the company's house registration fee for you, because they want you to open a business account with them.
Wait, free company formation? That sounds too good to be true. What's the catch?
The catch, if you can call it that, is that you are committing to their banking ecosystem. But for a new business, this can be incredibly efficient. For instance, a provider like Tide not only facilitates the incorporation, but also offers a virtual office address in London as a paid add-on. So in one seamless process, you can choose your name, register your company with a professional London address instead of your home, and have your business bank account approved and ready to go, often within 24 hours.
Wow. Okay, that changes things. So instead of going to company's house, then finding a virtual office provider, then applying for a bank account, I could just go to one of these internet banks and they handle the whole package.
Precisely. They often throw in other digital tools as well: simple website builders, invoicing software, expense tracking. It's a one-stop shop designed to get a modern small business operational with minimal friction. For many SQE candidates thinking of setting up on their own, it is an incredibly powerful and cost-effective route.
This feels like a good moment to pause. If you, the listener, are finding this sort of practical breakdown useful for your own future plans, I highly recommend subscribing to Dr. Yannis's MCQ SQE newsletter. It is packed with detailed notes and analysis that go even deeper than we can in the podcast. The link is in the show notes.
A valuable resource for consolidating this knowledge. Now, as part of this streamlined process, you will encounter two key documents: the Memorandum of Association and the Articles of Association. Do these terms ring a bell, Anna?
Vaguely. They sound very formal and full of heretofores and whereases. The memorandum is the bit where all the shareholders say, yes, we agree to form this company, right?
Correct. It is a simple, standard statement. When you incorporate online, it's generated automatically. The Articles of Association, however, are more significant. These are the internal rules for running the company. They govern things like the powers of directors, how shares are transferred, and how decisions are made.
Do I have to write these myself? Because I can guarantee that would be a disaster.
Fortunately not. Companies House provides a standard set of model articles. For the vast majority of small, limited companies, especially a one- or two-person consultancy, these are perfectly sufficient. Using the model articles is the default option and simplifies the process immensely. You only need to draft bespoke articles if you have complex requirements, like multiple share classes with different voting rights.
So I use an internet bank, they use the model articles, and it's all done. But what about the money? You mentioned shares. Do I need to have thousands of pounds to put in?
An excellent question and a common misconception. For a private limited company, there is no minimum capital requirement. You can incorporate a company with a single share valued at just £1. The person who sets up the company, legally known as the promoter, will often be the sole director and subscribe for that £1 share.
So I, the promoter, pay £1 into my new company's bank account, and I own the whole thing?
In essence, yes. But that leads to a crucial point of legal discipline that the SQE loves to test: the promoter's expenses. Before the company officially exists, you, the promoter, will likely spend your own money. The £15 company's house fee, perhaps the first month's virtual office fee. How does the company account for that?
Oh, I would have just paid it and forgotten about it.
A dangerous path. That money must be treated as a loan from you, the promoter, to the company. Once the company's bank account is open and you have paid your £1 share capital into it, the company should then officially reimburse you for those specific documented expenses. You must keep records.
Why is that so important? It's just me paying myself back.
Because the company is a separate legal person. Failing to document this properly creates a messy financial picture. It could be viewed as taking money out of the company improperly, which could cause major problems with HMRC later on. If you ever seek outside investment, investors will scrutinize these early transactions. Clean, transparent records from day one are non-negotiable. It proves you respect the corporate veil you have worked to create.
That makes sense. Start as you mean to go on. Okay, let me see if I have the path straight. First, I need to come up with a unique and compliant name. Then I should probably go to a service like one of those internet banks that bundles incorporation with a business account. Then I would use their system to register, providing my director and shareholder details. During that process, I would opt for a virtual office address to protect my privacy and just accept the model articles. After that, I would set the share capital low, maybe just for £1. Finally, once it is all live, I would open the bank account, pay in the £1, and then properly document the company repaying me for any initial setup costs.
An impeccable summary. You have mapped the journey from idea to incorporation perfectly. It's a process built on logic, and one that is far more accessible than most candidates assume.
It definitely feels less intimidating now. Breaking it down into those steps makes all the difference. Speaking of which, if you enjoy this step-by-step approach to learning, you should definitely check out Dr. Yannis's YouTube channel. He has brilliant videos that visualize these complex topics, which is a huge help for visual learners like me.
Thank you, Anna. The aim is always to provide clarity. The final and perhaps most important strategic point is to be meticulous. Check for typos in names and addresses. Ensure you have selected the correct business activity code, the so-called SIC code. While minor errors can be corrected, getting it right the first time saves significant administrative headache. These online platforms have made it easy, but they are not a substitute for careful diligence.
A classic lawyer's trait. The devil is in the detail.
It always is. But by understanding the structure we've discussed today, you are well equipped to handle SQE1 questions on company formation and, more importantly, to confidently take that step in your own career when the time is right.
Fantastic. I feel ready to launch Anna's Superlative Scripts Limited. Or maybe something a little more professional.
I would advise the latter.
Wise advice. Well, that's all we have time for this week. Thank you, as always, Theo.
A pleasure, Anna.
And a huge thank you to all of you for listening. If this episode helped you, please do us a massive favour and hit that like button. It tells the algorithm to show our podcast to more SQE candidates, and it helps our community grow.
We look forward to joining you again next week when we will be tackling the complexities of another key FLK topic.